This episode of JJ Meets World is brought to you by Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. Listen, folks, Natalie's got a great track record when it comes to selling homes. On average, she's moving homes for $4,000 or more above the list price, plus she's selling homes in less than the market average. What does that mean for you? It means you don't have to keep your house clean all the time if you're selling it. If you're a buyer, no one wants to wait around for a year, 2 years to find the perfect home. Natalie is going to work her tail off to make sure that she finds you the right home at the right price, and she's going to represent you through the entire buying process. So it's kind of like holding a hand to get across the street. Natalie is going to be that Girl Scout who grabs your hand, pushes the walk button, gets you across the street, and then points you down the street to where you need to go. If you're selling a home, Natalie is an amazing person to represent you. She's going to keep you top of mind on all these search engines, all the stuff that you have to worry about. Don't worry. Natalie's going to take on that headache. You don't have to deal with it. So get a hold of Natalie today, because on average, she sells a home every 3.74 days. That's 2 homes a week. Sometimes Natalie's selling enough property to make you think that she's an entire team herself. But no, she is the Wonder Woman of local real estate agents. Natalie Deutsch, 701-388-9338. You can also get a hold of her via email, Natalie, Natalie, at hatchrealtyfm.com. Or you can go to the Hatch Realty website, livefargomorehead.com. That is livefargomorehead.com. And hey, start packing. Top of the podcast to you, listener. This is your host with the most, JJ, coming at you live on JJ Meets World. Listen, here's the deal. This episode has got 2 parts, an intro and then the episode itself. The intro consists of Tucker and I talking about brand awareness and how I totally got screwed by one of my favorite all-time brands recently, to the point of, if you need this, just write into JJ Meets World and I will send you the rest of them, because I am never going to use them again. Number 2, our guest today is John Lamb, who's a columnist for the Forum. Boy, we've been wanting this interview for a long time, and I think that you guys are in for a real treat, because John is just such a cool dude. We get to talk about a little bit of everything, as well as he remembers writing about me at one point, and I was just tickled pink when I heard it. So strap in and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And while you're doing that, swing over to patreon.com/JJ Meets World and donate something to this podcast. It's always free. The content is always free to you folks. Over 100 hours. But a little bit of cash helps us do a lot of things. So enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
There's certain brand names that I trust. I just trust the brand. I trust them to make a quality product and not to lead me astray. There are even brands that I've never even used that I trust. So, for example, John Deere. John Deere's an old established brand. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of farmers using it. I trust John Deere. My world was rocked recently when a trusted brand let me down big time.
Ruh-roh, Reggie.
Yeah, and before I get into it, just know that I'm a man who really enjoys a cotton swab. So,
oh, good. I was afraid the stakes would be low.
Right. So the Q-Tips brand is so synonymous with cotton swabs that people say Q-tip, like give me a Q-tip, just like they say give me a Kleenex. Mm-hmm. Well, they mean a tissue, but they use the brand name.
Right, like you see a bunch of old people in the room, you say there's a bunch of Q-tips out there.
Every year my mom would give me a 1,000 pack of Q-tips for Christmas, because she knows that I love Q-tips, and I know I'm not supposed to clean my ears out with them, but I'm very gentle, and I feel like I've got emotion, like a roll motion.
Feels fantastic.
Oh, it's so good.
Feels so good.
So good. So I've got 1,000 pack of Q-tips, and my mom passed away several years ago, so I've had to buy my own, and I will get to the bottom of my Q-tips and go, I'm out. So recently I purchased Q-tips. I was at a big box store, and I'm just grabbing off the shelf. And I'm like, there's my Q-tips brand box. Grab it, put it in my cart. Notice it's not as thick, and I'm like, probably grab the 500 pack. That's fine. Check out. The next day I go to use one of my delightful cotton swabs, and Q-tips has let me down because they put in the exact same packaging as the traditional cotton swab, a sharp pointed cotton swab. So it looks like a little spear.
What?
Yeah, it's got a sharp point. It must be for makeup application or something like that, but it's got a sharp, hard point. It's almost like the stick goes further up, but it's sharp enough where like I tried to use it in my ear, and like I'm like my eardrum was like, "Hey man, don't do that!"
Right.
Because I could feel it poking me.
Oof.
And it definitely didn't accomplish the job I wanted of clearing out my earwax. So now I'm stuck with 498 of these friggin' things, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them. So thanks a lot. And here's the thing. If you're going to do something like make sharp cotton swabs, you change the color of the packaging, right? Like, get me a blue pack of Q-tips, classic Q-tips. They've been that color for 30 friggin' years. Get the green ones if you're looking for the sharp ones and you want to like ruin someone's day.
You know, JJ, you know what you should do about this?
Write a strongly worded letter.
To the editor.
Oh, of like a paper?
Yeah.
Yeah. They probably wouldn't publish it though because they don't want to lose that sweet Q-tip money.
Do you see what the local paper publishes in their editorial?
That's true.
Letters to the editor.
In their opinion section.
I think our kids don't take snow hard enough.
You know what I would like? My mail delivered twice a day.
It always makes me think of, I think I've said it on the podcast before, but the episode of Parks and Rec, anytime really that they're having
a community forum,
mm-hmm. And the old woman goes, I found a half-eaten sandwich on the ground in Innsfield's Park, and I want to know why it had no tomato.
It's pretty brilliant. You know, here's the thing. I think of the movie Men in Black, which says, he's like, why don't you tell people about this? People are smart. He goes, no, a person is smart. People are dumb, stupid, and panicky. I was like, yeah, Tommy Lee Jones. That's some really
that feels like
deep
that's
knowledge
his
right
actual
there.
Philosophy too.
Right. The cameras just happened to be rolling, and Barry Sonnenfeld really got something wonderful.
Right.
Today's guest is Mr. John Lamb. And if you're from the region, the Red River Valley region at all, you know that name and you've read his articles for years and years and years. John is one of the most respected, badass, cool people journalists in the area.
That's his byline in the Forum.
I don't know why the Forum doesn't like trot him off to all of the colleges and just like have him stand there and then show the headlines of the articles he's written and be like, this is why you go into print journalism.
I think John Lamb and I have something in common.
What?
Just when you look at us, you go, that guy has a job?
Yeah.
Gainfully employed.
See, here's the thing. John is to the point of where he is so deep in his career, he kind of gets to do whatever he wants with like himself. He doesn't have to worry about wearing a suit and tie to work every day to look good because you got to impress the bosses. At this point,
he's like, I'm John Lamb. Do something about it.
Yeah, he's John Lamb.
Wham bam. Thank you, John Lamb.
Oh, I hope that's the next title of his article. So you've read him for years, and he's one of the cool people. So because he goes to all the cool shows, and even before like he was reviewing Shania Twain and stuff like that, he was reviewing smaller shows, and so you'd see him be like, "Oh, that's John Lamb. Oh my God, he might be writing about this show that I'm at." We had a really good time chatting with John Lamb.
Did you almost say blessed time?
I was gonna say blasted time, but like.
No, our time with John was
blasted.
It was blessed.
Blessed. This episode is great because it's the voice behind the typeface. So I think you guys are really gonna get a kick out of this one, and we talk about some deep stuff and some great baseball too. some good baseball talk in this episode. So strap in, enjoy, and make sure to listen all the way to the end, as well as, enjoy some chips I feel like potato chips go well with this episode. It's not very often we pair our episodes with things, but this episode pairs well with potato chips. Plain, no ridges.
JJ Meets World.
Saturday morning. Monster truck weekend.
I like it.
Monster jam at the Fargo Dome.
Is
Buy
it
the
right
whole
now?
seat, but you only need the edge.
Is it?
That's
is it
great.
Is it right now?
It is last night and this morning.
So I went to that a couple years ago, and I was so disappointed at
Why?
how boring it was.
yeah.
It was so boring.
And loud.
Loud, but that didn't bother me as much. I expected it to be loud.
Did you smell like gas when you walked
Yeah.
out of there?
Yeah.
They try and prime you by showing you videos of like Bigfoot
Right.
tumbling over, and so you think I'm going to see an awesome crash.
Right.
But 1 out of a million chance of actually seeing one of those things crash.
Exactly, because I mean those vehicles they put a lot of money into those. They're not just going to roll it for the yokels in Fargo.
When I was a
The
kid,
local yokels.
This isn't Nashville, okay?
Right,
you guys?
exactly. We did this Nashville dollars.
I remember when it would come into town once a year, and I remember seeing the ads on TV for the monster trucks are in town, and you could draw a picture of a monster truck as if you're a kid and submit it to the news station,
That's brilliant.
and you could get on TV. And I didn't care about monster trucks, but I wanted my art to be on TV. So I remember drawing one and then not getting on and being really upset by it.
Well, now that you know people in the media,
That's true.
Maybe you could draw another picture
Yeah.
and it could make it
With
somewhere.
the form print of my
I think we
monster truck
should.
drawing.
Yeah,
I think that's a really great idea for next year, because that's the thing like you struggle with is that how do you talk about the same event year after year,
Right.
where it's the goal is the same, and something like even like Celebration of Women in Their Music, which is a great event, it's a great cause, and they've got this great core of people there. But ultimately, it's kind of the same thing. It's going to be for 2 hours. People are going to come on in 8-minute shifts and sing a song.
Can you imagine though if someone made I like the idea of someone who every time he runs a contest, it's always a monster truck drawing contest, no matter what. So it's like, do you want to win tickets to women
To
in
the
their
blenders?
music?
Yes.
Yeah.
You drop
Submit
blenders
your monster
Christmas.
truck. Submit your best monster truck drawings.
Well, no, that would be great too. It's like submit what would a Blender's monster truck look like? Send me your drawing.
I bet Tim would have an opinion on that.
I bet you would.
I bet Ryan would too. I'm sure Ryan would.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And that opinion would go on and on and on and on.
We're working on getting all the separate blenders on this show because we want to see how much shit talk they'll do amongst each other about each other.
We're also a little curious too about. We'll tell each of them that they were the first one we reached out to, and the first one we recorded. But really, who knows what the order is going to end up being? Well, I think that was the intro.
Yep.
That was the beginning of our podcast.
We've
We're
started,
going
for
at this
sure,
point.
for sure.
We're off and running. We're rolling.
John Lamb, welcome to JJ Meets World. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm excellent. We're excited to have you here because you're one of those people in town who kind of keeps his finger on the pulse, and you've sort of got a dream media job to a lot of people. It used to be that every year I would run into you at WeFest.
Yes.
And you would be standing.
Yeah, why were you there? I was there for work. Why were you there?
I ran the camping.
Oh.
So I was the mayor of 30,000 people for 4 days every single year. Unless something bad happened, in which case I would make it somebody else.
Exactly.
Had you been able to say that during your mayoral campaign in 2006,
I know.
like I've been the mayor of 30,000 people a few different times at WeFest.
I've seen some shit, you guys.
Yeah. Exactly. I've babysat 30,000 drunks.
So let's start with this. So how did you get into the world of writing for the paper?
Through the High Plains Reader. When the High Plains Reader established an office in Fargo was the early 1997. And of course, that was the year that we had all those blizzards and a lot of snow. And the guy who who helped bring the paper down 2 years to Fargo was Jim Johnson, who lived 2 doors down from my parents. And he would blow them out. He would blow out their front yard and walk. And so I went over and thanked him one day. He said, "Well, you go out a lot. Would you want to write for the High Plains Reader?" And so I said, "Sure." So my first piece was, it was funny now. I look back at it and I wouldn't even want to read it now. I'm sure I would cringe. But it was a review of John Prine playing at the Fargo Theater, so 97 was the Fargo Theater. Had that even been redone yet?
No, not yet. The Renaissance Zone was just starting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think 97 was the beginning of that project.
So there was that, and then I did a review that ran 2 weeks after the concert, which is really timely. Great, and then that's really set the tone for my approach to journalism. Better late than never.
You guys should have been here. It was great.
It was great. You missed a good one.
So you've gotten an amazing opportunity. So first of all, I love your column.
Thank you.
I always love your column, and sometimes you throw me for a loop because I'm like, I didn't think that John Lamb would ever write about this, but at this point, you're enough of a commodity to the forum where they kind of just let you pick a lot of stuff, right? Like if you're interested in something, you can kind of push for that.
I think as long as I come up with interesting ideas, they're like, yeah, sure. But then there are times when they're like, look, we need somebody to cover this. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to write about this.
Enjoy the cat show, John.
Exactly.
And then you were like, I've already written it on my list.
Yeah.
So I got you.
Cat show, huh? I wonder what a cat show monster truck would look like. Wow.
Tucker and I talk about one of our favorite Roger Ebert reviews ever, where he writes the review as Garfield the cat.
For Garfield, Tale of Two Kitties.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty brilliant.
That was towards the end of his life.
Mm-hmm. But
He's just like, gloves off, man. What the hell?
I don't need to worry about anything anymore. Tell me about some of the pieces that you've been the most surprised at over the years, like something where you went in maybe with a lower expectation and then just like kind of were shocked at how interesting you thought it was.
Oh, that happens kind of like quite a bit. You just you're not enthused because maybe you want to be doing something else. Maybe you want to be writing something else, and they're like, no, you should write about that. I mean, it just happens. There was a thing that we did called you guys grew up here. Yep. Do you remember the green sheets, the farm tab? Come out on Friday, and it was like an insert in there, and it was printed on green paper for a while. And then for a while, just the spine was. But anyways, you could write like all week. You could write serious stories. If you were a news reporter, you could write serious stories about important issues that matter to the community. You could cover crashes and murder trials and things like that. And if you're me, you could write about big concert reviews, cool events coming up. But you wrote a farmer's forum. You heard from about 30 people that morning. And of course, they were all call-ins because they were mostly older people who 10 years ago weren't necessarily online. I would write about a guy who had a collection of hand pumps in his front yard, and people were calling me. I was like, does he sell those? What kind of models does he have? I wrote another one about a guy who had baseball cap collection, just baseball caps. He had a basement full of baseball caps. People are like, I've got some. Would you think you'd like them? And you could write about all these really important things, and people may read them and digest them, but the ones that people really want to talk about are those stories about people and their collections, whether it's records or whatever.
One of my coworkers right now is Hayden Gothi.
Yeah.
Who used to work at the Forum. Great guy. He's an awesome guy. And actually, I found a connection with him recently where I found out that he was the author of an article that I had been trying to find for a few years that I had remembered reading but couldn't find. And it was about this guy who runs basically a simulated baseball league using software from the 80s in his basement. And he's been doing it for like 12, 13 years with a group of guys that that's what they do every year. That's their summers. They play this fantasy simulated baseball game. And he has actually had to go in and edit the software himself to get new players in and new stats. And that was one of the most like interesting stories to me that I had read. I thought this is crazy. So interesting actually that I've reached out to the guy to try to get him on this show. Haven't heard back yet, but now I'm wondering, maybe I should start diving through the John Lamb archives to get show ideas for this show. Be like, who did John Lamb talk to? Let's talk to that person.
Well, I was trying to think so is John C. Reilly, is he up for an Oscar this year?
No, he didn't get a nomination for Stan and Ollie.
Because I was going to think that would have been, because I can't remember what I was hearing on the radio coming over, but I was like, if he's up for an Oscar, then that's the first time I've talked to an Oscar-nominated actor.
When did you get a chance?
Well, he came through a couple years ago. Remember, he did a song.
He did a live show.
A concert.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I was actually pleasantly surprised by how good it was.
It was really, really great. And I can't remember the names of the other. It was like a group of L.A. singer-songwriters. John was one of them. And Yeah, and it was a great show at Fargo Theater. It was a summer, wasn't it? It was a nice summer night, and I can't remember the woman's name, but she had like some kind of a wardrobe malfunction, so she had to like change mid-show. It was very much unlike a folk show,
Right.
Yeah.
But it was really funny, and he was a great interview. You know, he was, you could tell that he'd been asked a lot about things about like, Walk Hard and things like that, his kind of ridiculous roles. But that, and obviously he's been in a lot of other things. He's played a lot of serious roles. But, the ones that he's remembered for are Step Brother and
Right.
all those
Talladega Nights. And
Yeah,
the Will
exactly.
Ferrell
The
stuff.
Will Ferrell stuff, yeah. And so he was a really fun guy to talk to.
No one's really asking him about Chicago
No.
anymore, which is a shame.
a damn shame.
It's a shame.
Because he was great. Or even this, The River Wild with Meryl Streep
I
and
never saw
Kevin
that, but
Bacon
yeah.
and David Strathairn.
See-
a great little little
right
action
now,
movie.
if he came into the studio, the only thing I would be asking him about is Steve Brule.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I would be asking him about, which is a show from Tim and Eric.
Oh, yeah.
But it's his Steve Brule character, Brule's Rules. And what's it called? Check It Out,
Yeah.
I think is what it's called. And that's a character that he plays that I'm automatically laughing the moment I see him, and I just don't stop. It's an involuntary reaction I have. I have the same reaction to Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
Where
they immediately kind of like picks you up.
Yep. And as soon as they start laughing, you're like, oh my God, I can't stop.
And if my girlfriend hates it. So we watched Schitt's Creek.
Oh,
I haven't watched it
Are
yet.
you going to go to Schitt's Creek Live? It's coming to the Twin Cities.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, and so apparently it's like a live. They've written a live show where the Rose family is trying to like hold a fundraiser, and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. I am very excited about that.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
We'll talk after the show because I might have some extra tickets if you're interested.
Yeah, but I'm also gonna say if we can edit out this whole chunk of the show, because this would be a great surprise for my girlfriend.
Okay. Yep.
But no, but so anyways, so you guys watch the show Schitt's Creek? It's great, right? But anyway, so we were watching. She was like, "Oh, you got to watch this." Video clip that he did that was it Dan Levy that he did with Stephen Colbert, an interview, and so we watched that, and I'm like, he's talking about the SCTV, the Schmengi brothers. You know how kind of like Eugene Levy's his arc, and he can play these different things. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to show you some SCTV. So my girlfriend's 31, so this is of no interest to her. She's dating an old man. So This is my old man thing, And so we're watching it, and I'm like laughing. I'm laughing hysterically. It's John Candy and it's Eugene Levy, and they're polka. And she's just like, why is this funny? Why is this funny? And then so I watched, do you remember they did a show called Half-Wits, which is Eugene Levy's kind of an Alex Trebek-like, and he just gets infuriated by all these
Truman Capote.
yeah. What was her name? Not Catherine O'Hara.
Andrea Martin, Catherine O'Hara. Yeah.
Yep, Andrea Martin. Joe Flaherty was on there. Martin Short and
Rick Moranis.
John Candy. Yeah, that was a great show. And she's just like, no, nothing.
Catherine O'Hara is one of those actors who I think one day she's going to have an Oscar.
I'm surprised that she doesn't already.
She should. She deserves it.
But she's never done like the serious movie,
Right? Which is dumb because I obviously we could go on forever about the standards of the Oscars of what makes it.
But like her performance in Best in Show, even though it's like she becomes that character.
Yeah.
She is that character. In fact, there's just a great article in Entertainment Weekly with Catherine O'Hara where she says, when I'm in doubt, I just play crazy. And she talks about Schitt's Creek, which, by the way, reviewing Schitt's Creek on the radio was tough because I couldn't say the name of the show. I just had to explain what it was and be like, it's a word that I'm not allowed to say, followed by creek, even though it's spelled differently. Are you watching Schitt's Creek?
I haven't yet. I need to start.
You should.
Because I am a massive Catherine O'Hara fan. I've obviously growing up with Home Alone.
Yep.
So as a kid, you get introduced to her, and then when I saw her in Waiting for Guffman, and she does the best drunk I have ever seen anyone do.
Well, this will be a real treat for you then.
Excellent.
Schitt's Creek will be a real treat for you. And then I'm not sure if you've seen it, but like on YouTube, there's all these outtakes, the blooper reels.
Okay.
And those are great because like you actually get like, because obviously when they're not acting, when they come back down, they're a bit more closer to probably like what her real voice is. And it's kind of a surprise.
What is that deleted scene from Guffman where Fred Willard is playing catch with her?
Yeah.
And that one where she catches it just with like a hand.
Yep.
And he's like, she's mad at me because I hit her with the ball once.
You know what shocks me is that, you talk about some of the greatest like duos throughout time. So like Doris Day and Rock Hudson.
Yep.
Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara have a wonderful chemistry that we've seen in numerous movies at this point, and it just keeps getting better. I remember when A Mighty Wind came out, I took my mom to it, and she really she was trying really hard to understand the comedy thing that JJ was trying to get into. And I remember her falling. She and my grandfather both fell asleep during A Mighty Wind. But A Mighty Wind was then up for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. And so my mom, again, is trying really hard to I'm going to learn about the Oscars so that I can talk about them with my son. And she's telling me, she's like, they didn't, they used to kiss at the end of this, but then they got divorced. And I was like, yep. And then I realized she thought that they were real people. She didn't realize that this was an act.
It's not a documentary.
Yeah. And I was like, you also saw this. You saw this movie, and she's talking about the Oscars performance. I'm like, yeah, but you saw this movie. She's like, yeah, they made this documentary about him, and then they're doing this. I'm like, no. And I was trying to be like, that is the dad from American Pie, and this moment of clarity,
The mom from Home Alone.
yeah, that you see in her eyes, like, oh. And I was like, I love you, Mom,
Patty.
but you try so hard. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I've been pushing for years for people to get Jeff Bridges and his band to Fargo, because I think you could sell the Fargo Theater like there's no tomorrow. What do you think?
I think that's a good call. I think that would work. I think I'm assuming that part of the thing is schedules,
Yep.
and also, getting him up here. I know he's got ties to the area. His wife's from here. I think as far as selling tickets, it wouldn't be a problem at all. I think the issue would be kind of like the Steve Martin thing. It's it's a great thing. Tickets are pricey, and that's what people have been saying, but it's also been selling. So people will go, but tickets for Jeff Bridges would be, they'd be pretty.
The year that Steve Martin was at WeFest was the same year that Crazy Heart came out.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember pushing Randy Levy, the guy who owned WeFest. I'm like, you should bring Jeff Bridges out here. I saw him on the Tonight Show performing this stuff, and he's amazing. And he's got a band that he's formed now where he goes and does the stuff. And he goes, listen, people are giving me so much shit for bringing Steve Martin to WeFest. And I was like, and so then you were there the night of the Steve Martin show, maybe?
Yeah, because that was the night of the big storm.
It was a big rainstorm, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to work 3 hours later is when my shift change was, but I was like, I'll be damned if I'm going to fall asleep and miss the Canyon Riders.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was shocked at how much I loved the show. And there was, you're not going to see a Steve Martin stand-up show.
Right.
You're going to watch this folk band play. I'm very excited to see him and Martin Short at Blue Stem, but it did hurt my pocketbook to buy those tickets.
Yeah.
And I cringed a little bit when I saw the final ticket amount. But at the same time, how many more opportunities am I going to get to see that right here in, my neck of the woods?
Right. No, and that's the thing. It's like Blue Stem, you could put kind of anything out at Blue Stem and it becomes immediately better. I mean, and that's just seeing anything outdoors, whether it's up at Newman Field or, I've seen Bob Dylan, 4 times, and you're like, yeah, Bob Dylan in the Civic Center or Bob Dylan at Newman Field. I'll see Bob Dylan at Newman Field.
So if you started writing, or at least if you started writing the HPR, you said 97.
Yep.
So you've been a writer for over 20 years.
Yes.
And have you been getting free concerts that entire time?
Sometimes.
Okay.
There's been ones I've had to pay for, but
Okay.
yeah. I mean, if I'm writing about it,
Right.
and a lot of times, the publicist, you probably know. I'm not sure if you've done a lot of work with publicists. Is if you write in advance, they'll want you to see the show.
Got it.
They'll want to say, hey, do you want to go to the show? And it's good too because at the end of the year, you do kind of wrap ups, or just for some things where you have context. So you can say the historical context of this show happened. But yeah.
How does it work in the editorial process with reviews then? Because if say you've got your reviewer, this person who is going to concerts a lot, but then it's like an NSYNC concert, something that I wouldn't assume you were too jazzed about if you had to go cover it, but you'd still be tasked with reviewing it. I mean, is there ever thought given to, would this person give the type of review? And the only reason I bring up NSYNC was because I gave NSYNC a really bad article in my school newspaper in 9th grade. I didn't go see the show. I just wrote an article about how much I thought NSYNC sucked. And my teacher was like, normally you wouldn't be allowed to do this because you clearly have an axe to grind, but we're going to let this go. So, I mean, how does that work out then if you're reviewing something that you wouldn't already be a fan of?
I think you get, if you want to be, like, one of the first concerts I had to review for the forum was Creed.
Oh,
and that was just at the time. Remember,
with arms wide open.
Yeah, exactly. Well, by the way, everybody, we are all shirtless on a mountain with our arms wide open right now. Hair blowing.
It's very cold up here.
Yeah, but like that was the time when Creed was supposed to play here before. There was some kind of an accident. And Scott Stapp got hurt, when the show happened, like they were in their downfall.
Okay. They were the Nickelback of their time, where they were sort of the punchline to jokes.
Yeah, exactly. They were wildly popular and wildly hated at the same time.
Right.
And you could argue now, like, Nickelback has a longer career. They definitely do have a longer career.
Mm-hmm. For certain.
They've got more hits. Like, you could argue Nickelback is
the most successful bad band in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But Creed was the other thing with Creed is like they were really successful. They were the best-selling independent act. They weren't on a major label, and they were doing phenomenally. And the publicist obviously he'd seen his band just get ripped apart. So when I reached out and I wanted to do an interview with the band, they weren't able to do interviews. But I was like, well, we're going to review the show. Can you get a ticket and a photo pass? He said, okay, I just want you to go there with an open mind and just watch how they interact with the band, with the crowd. And I thought, well, okay, that's it, because you're really there to review the whole show, song by song. If some songs are not your thing, if they are. But, also, like, if I've been to horrible shows and the crowd really loved it, and it kind of makes it a little bit fun. I'm not a huge Toby Keith fan. I actually do really love his voice. There's a couple songs I like. I probably wouldn't agree with him on a lot of stuff. But because of that, because of like his bombastic, put a boot in your ass, it's the American way. Actually, when you hear that live, it's that's an anthem. Like, people stand up and you're like, okay, this is kind of a fun show. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of the approach that I try to take to it, is like, it may not be my thing, but Bon Jovi's a great example. Not a Bon Jovi fan at all. They put on a good show. I think their songs are super schmaltzy.
Yep.
And that's fine. They have 20,000 people who wanted to buy tickets. 15,000 of them were women who had a lot to drink and then caused massive lines at the bathroom. But they put on a good show, and so that's what I wrote. So it's not. I'm never really going in there saying this was my favorite song and they did great with it or anything like that. John Prine was a fun show. He was not really super lively or anything like that, but the guy's written great songs. So yeah, you just kind of try to go in there and look at, what are they doing? What are they trying to do? Do they pull it off? I was a huge Motley Crue fan growing up. And when I reviewed their final show in Fargo so far, they'll probably come back from retirement. It was really disappointing. And I wrote that. I tried to make that come across as just like, this is just kind of silly. I've grown up and these guys haven't. I grew up on those guys, and I've continued to grow up. And Tommy Lee is still asking to see Fargo titties. And Nikki Sixx, every other word is fuck. And I'm just like, okay.
That was the show.
But they've got some great songs.
That was the show when they were here with Alice Cooper, right?
Mm-hmm. I thought Alice Cooper was far more entertaining. Alice Cooper was a generation before me. I've seen him 2 or 3 times. That's a fun show. And then you realize, like, oh yeah, not only School's Out, I know all these other songs. It was great. And then, but he didn't get the video treatment or anything like that,
which is too bad.
Really too bad. His show was really, really fun.
So my now wife, at that time girlfriend, got to hang out with Alice backstage at the show because I got a call driving home from the Garth Brooks concert in the Twin Cities, and someone said, "Hey, listen, Alice Cooper's manager is wondering if someone would keep his snake for the night and then ship it to the snake sanctuary because their next gig is in Winnipeg and he's not allowed to bring the snake."
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, forget that. No way. I hate snakes. Hung up the phone. Jill goes, what was that? Someone asked me to take care of Alice Cooper's snake. And she goes, call them back right now and apologize and say you will gladly do it. And so she got to go and meet the manager, and then we had Count Strangula in our home for the night. And the next day when I brought it to FedEx, and I'm like, this is a live snake that you guys are shipping to the snake sanctuary. She's like, no, you can't ship these things. I'm like, oh yeah? Well, look at this from the USDA and then this paperwork from this place. She's very unhappy about it.
And look at this album cover from Alice Cooper.
Yeah. Well, and Joe's like, what should I ask him to sign? And I was like, I would have him sign a glove. I don't know why that just rings with me, but bring like a glove and have Alice sign it.
A golf club.
Oh,
a golf glove, I should say.
Which Wayne's World is he in?
2, right? Yeah, it's 2.
Okay.
Alice Cooper, is it 2 or is it 1?
I think it's 1.
Is it 1?
Because when they go backstage and they're talking about like particle physics or something. There's something too heady for the
Yeah.
Wayne
yeah,
Guard.
because it's like Aerosmith and everybody in the second one
Right.
who show up at Wayne Stock.
Okay.
Alice Cooper's another one of those guys too who like looks virtually the same today as he did in the 1970s.
Yeah.
So when you make a movie like Dark Shadows that's set in the 70s, you just cast Alice Cooper as himself, and you really have very little that you need to do.
Do you remember, in like the late 80s, 88, 89, 87 even maybe, there was a horror movie where there's Prince of Darkness, I think, something like that, or Prince. But anyways, where there is there's this old, I think, a school that's emanating some strange evil something, and the guy, I think was the actor's name like Dennis Dugan, or no, it was the actor from what were the brothers who solved crime, Simon and Simon. Remember Simon and Simon? Gerald McRaney, and then the other guy.
Right.
The other guy, I think it was him, but he was in it, and I can't remember if there was supposed to be like who else was in it, but anyways, Alice Cooper ends up being like one of these evil zombies, this henchman of evil who kills somebody by ramming them through with a bike body. With an actual like a 10-speed body, evil. And like that was like before then I'd heard the kind of the classic Alice Cooper songs, and that was at this point where he was a kind of he was a bit of a rebound in the late 80s, because I think he'd done some movie for one of the Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And so he was associated with that, and then so Alice Cooper, but you're right. And people could say, well, it's because he's always wearing makeup, which may be true, but it's also, I think, too, that by the late 70s or early 80s, he quit drinking and he quit doing drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So after that, he takes care of himself, and everybody talked about he's a golfer, but like, yeah, but he's active. He does something.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Cassandra Peterson as Elvira still looks amazing today, and it's because she takes care of herself,
Yep.
She's not out there every night giving herself the Tommy Lee treatment.
Right. Good thing.
So,
the Tommy Lee treatment. I think I'm going to have to hashtag that one.
Good.
Yeah.
They'll come out of retirement when they're out of their cocaine money and they need to come back to Fargo.
So throughout the years, you've had a chance to see a lot of shows, but then you cover things other than concerts too.
Yep.
You cover, when notable people are coming to town, and I've also noted that you've covered some pretty heavy stuff over the years.
Yep.
Is it hard to shake some of those things off when you're having to do such a deep dive to get a column written?
Well, yeah, I mean, like thinking about that, like one of the things, like we used to do shifts, like who would be the weekend reporter. And when you were the weekend reporter, it didn't matter that most of my stuff is arts and entertainment. If there's a car crash, you have to cover that, or if there's something like that. And I remember like when the shock and awe, so in the early 2000s, so it was that 2003, 2004, when we first started seeing local soldiers who died, and you would have to call the families, and you'd have to, and like you just had to kind of like, you saw that and you knew what was happening and you knew you had to do it, and you have to call and you say, I mean, I'm sure you guys would do the same thing too, is you just call and say, hey, look, I saw that this person died and I'm calling from the forum, and I want to extend my sympathies, but also wanted to see if anybody there wanted to talk about this person. And you just try to be, the thing with hopefully with being a journalist is that you try to realize, like, there are times when you just have to get the facts across. Well, in something like this, the fact that someone died we know that it's been a release has come out from the military, something like that. You know it. So, after that, you just try to be, you try to let people talk, and you be a good listener, and you just try to find out more about that person. So there's no there's no gotcha there. We're not gonna wait on somebody's lawn or anything like that. So but yeah, that kind of shift. Sometimes you do that, and even within doing arts and entertainment, you have to do obituaries. I'm writing tomorrow about the 60th anniversary of the day the music died, and I remember when Bobby V died, I had to write the obituary for that, and that was, and in some ways, I think obituaries can be kind of rewarding to write personally, because you get to look at somebody's life and you get to see what all they've done. And it can be really, really interesting. There was a guy, I think it was maybe even the year that you ran. I can't remember his name. He was an older gentleman.
Richard, what was Richard's last? The media impresario.
Yeah, it was the guy who...
You compared him to Mr. Burns.
Yes.
Yep.
I shudder to think, what did I compare you to?
Michael J. Fox.
Okay.
For my plucky use of the middle initial, specifically.
Yeah, and I think I had Arlette Preston as Anne Franklin from One Day at a Time.
That's right. You cast everyone. That's what it was.
I cast everyone.
That's right.
It was pretty spot on stuff, too.
Denny Wallaker was James Gandolfini from The Sopranos.
Which is a good choice.
But it was with him, I had never even talked to the guy. And I couldn't really find anybody who really knew him. But so I went and looked through our archives, and he had wanted to bring in basketball teams. He'd started a couple of different basketball leagues here. Yeah. So something like that was really kind of, actually on that day, I did an obit on him, and then an obit on, Marguerite, the woman who started Marguerite's music.
Yeah.
And that one was a totally different one, because I talked to Linda Boyd, who grew up working with her and kind of buying things from her and going to her music store. And so there, you've got this benefit of somebody telling stories about it, somebody who had firsthand knowledge. But in both cases, they're pretty, I think they're, it's not necessarily always a fun thing to do. I don't think I could do it every day, but it's really interesting.
We had Kevin Wallivan on the show recently, and we talked about not just reporting on sensitive topics, but also how working in journalism is you're chronicling the history of something. So if you want to look back at an era, most of the material that you're looking at are news reporting, because that's going on every single day. Have you ever felt any anything along those lines of, the words that you're writing down are being preserved in a certain way, and that if you look back over the last 20 years at a certain year, if you want to learn about that year, you can find a bunch of John Lamb articles and see what John was writing about at that time. Is there anything about that interests you in the chronicling of this area?
Yes, and then no. In that, yes, I do like that, and I do think about that from time to time, that it is, ultimately at that moment, it's like, this is my job. I just got to do this, and I've got to get it in by deadline. But then also you think that it is for a matter of, this becomes record, right? Yep. But I guess I've never really thought about it looking at 20 years from now. And what it means. One of the things that, like with these Bobby V things, we have all these old, or not all these, but a couple of old Bobby V photos, but they've never really ID'd in all of them. None of the other members of his band, The Shadows, were ID'd. So I had to piece together by looking at different ones, like who is who. And those are the things that I think are kind of, again, we should have a record of that.
Right. But the detective work you had to basically do to piece it together.
Which is small, it really wasn't too hard with that. But yeah, and I think it's again, going back to concerts, and going to concerts, it's a matter of like, well, what did happen here? Mm-hmm. And one of the most fun pieces I did, and it got really good play too, was when Cheap Trick came to town and played Blue Stem. And I did a story of, basically it was like, remember the time Cheap Trick played here? And I had heard at that time, like all these different rumors, like, oh, their bus broke down, so tickets were cheap, and oh, they were playing all around town. And so I kind of put that out there and on Facebook, and people kind of ran with it, and people would get back to me, and like even they would write me names of somebody else. It was like, this guy will know. And so I would hear about a guy who doesn't live here anymore, And everyone, that was a really fun thing to kind of put together. Like, here is maybe not a timeline of the night,
Right.
but here are different people's recollections. And it's still, even with that, even though somebody posted a picture of the ticket, someone's like, no, it was a different year and a different venue. And I'm like, I appreciate your memory, but I'm gonna go with the ticket.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the fact on that one.
Did you write the retrospective on Woodstock with Steve Stark where he went to that? So that's one piece I will always remember from the forum, because it was talking about how Steve Stark went and he still has his ticket from Woodstock. But when you get to the end of the article, part of it is like, and he was there for about 2 hours and decided it was too hot and he left. So it's this whole journey about getting out to Woodstock, New York, and then being like, oh, this sucks, let's leave.
Sometimes you find a good gem of the story, and if that's the only part of the story, you just build around it.
Yeah. Oh, I love stuff like so. Has anyone ever reached out to you and they did not care for their review? They wanted to give you a second chance?
Well, fans do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that, the band is never going to, I can't even remember a time. The only time I heard from a performer was the first time Shania Twain came to town. Or not the first time. The first time I reviewed Shania Twain, which was about 2004. Yeah, it was about 2003, 2004. And I was writing about how, like, they kind of looked like the colors of Benetton, or, like everyone was all these very vibrant colors. Everybody was all these like greens and yellows, and the drummer was playing with goggles on, it was really strange. The drummer wrote back the next day. It took me a minute to realize who it was. But, he said he had goggles on to protect his eyes from the sparklers that were going off above him. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. I didn't think about that. But so it was kind of interesting. Like, wow, the drummer reads the local paper's review of, okay, all right.
Of course it's the drummer, because the drummer's always the coolest in the band, right?
That's right.
The bassist would just read it and just
hope someone kisses me today.
But when I reviewed Jeff Dunham one time when he played the Fargo Theater, or not the Fargo Dome, this is about a decade ago, and I'd written about, I'd never seen him before, but apparently at the end of the show, he's got this bit where he's got one of his little puppets out, and people in the crowd will kind of yell out the punchline. And they'll yell out the jokes, and he kind of pretends like he doesn't know the joke or something like that. Well, I didn't realize that was an act, and I was like, God, you'd think that, for selling 10,000 tickets, this guy's been doing this for 20 years. And I had Jeff Dunham fans just rip me. He's like, obviously you don't know what you're talking about. Clearly. And I'm like, you're right.
Jeff Dunham fan 6925 at yahoo.com is not impressed.
Cranky old man. Yes, exactly. So sometimes you hear, but yeah, you hear from fans, and I shouldn't say the worst, but the most vocal fans are Trollwood parents.
Oh, I believe that.
And
100%.
nothing against Trollwood as an organization and the shows that they do, but you're doing a show. You're doing a show outside in the summer, and you guys you're in theater. You guys have done theater. It's live theater. Things can go wrong, especially if you're outdoors and you're wearing a little mic on your head, and if there's a gust of wind, that pops. Mm-hmm. Or if some things happen, and not these are kids, so it's kind of hard. That's something like you were asking about, like going to review something that maybe, you go into something like that and you're like, okay, they're not professionals, right? But they're trained, they believe in what they're doing. So you kind of, maybe you treat that with a little bit, you're not going to like really rip somebody up, but you find out kind of what does work and what doesn't work. So I went to Legally Blonde. And I thought it was a really kind of a fun show. The set was clearly not, it seemed to be lacking. It seemed like and we found out later, like, no, they just didn't get some of it built because there was a big windstorm and all these different things. And then the show comes on, and it was good. And this is opening night, and like the main performer was good. But there was wind, so there'd be popping in the sound. During one of the set changes, they were wheeling something on stage, and it was during one of the salon scenes, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were wheeling out this cart of salon products, and one of the bottles falls off and rolls off, so the stage. So it's like, okay, it's live theater, things happen. But there was there was a big ensemble scene, and as the ensemble leaves the stage, someone's mic was still on, and they were talking backstage, and they were very worked up about something. So I mean, like that was like it's like a guffaw, and it's like you can mention that, and it's like, hey, look, it's Trollwood. You go there, you're not going there. Nobody should be going there with critical. Expecting to see, you're not going to see a Broadway show, and that's what I was trying to get across. And people were just like, "You have to be more supportive. You were not nice. These kids are just devastated." I'm like, okay,
They're not. I guarantee you, they're not. They're making out right now. Is what they're doing. That's what those kids are doing. They're making out with each other.
They're driving around in cars naked. That's what
That's
we did all the time.
absolutely what
Naked
they're
driving.
doing. That's absolutely what they're doing.
But okay, so isn't part of the double-edged sword here is that some of these places in Fargo Moorhead, including like Trollwood, they're promising a Broadway-like atmosphere. You know, they're like, you know, the closest thing to Broadway you'll find in Fargo, or, you know, look at all the money and resources that are going into this show. And so I think they're kind of asking to be held to a higher standard in that way.
I think they are, because I think if we didn't review them, they would be, and like people still think we'll hear from the high school theaters like, you should review our play. I'm like, no, we're not going to review a high school play, because there are if you stretch them out, because they're always overlapping, because everything happens in these small windows in town. But you could review a high school play just about every weekend of the school year. It's not feasible. And also it's like it's a high school production.
Right.
The people that should be there, I mean, anybody can go to a high school play. You don't have to know somebody on stage, but generally that's what it is. It's friends and family.
Yeah.
And I think with Trollwood, you're right, because they do pitch it. I've never heard it pitched as an almost Broadway-like, but they do pitch it as a community thing. That this is our community, because it is. It's kids from all over, and sometimes even outside of the community coming in, and they're doing these. But you're right, they also do say they have directors who have Broadway experience, and they have all these other people who have Broadway experience. So they are held to a higher standard, which is why we review them. But it's also, you know, you just have to kind of.
It's kids putting on a show.
It's kids putting on a show, and it's an elevated show, and generally it is. There's always something entertaining there. That's not like they ever put on, and it's Trollwood too. So you have to put on big ensemble shows.
Yep.
You have to put on a musical. You have to put on something that's going to be family friendly. So every once in a while, like you say, like what the new Trollwood show is going to be, and people are like, oh, I really thought that they could do something else.
Well, I mean, the last couple of years, it seems like if they attach the word Disney to the show, it's going to, and I think that's...
And they what they really want to do is, in addition to giving kids the opportunity to perform, they have to put butts in the seat, because they have to pay for that.
Exactly. And boy, is that tough. I remember when Trollwood was like, you brought your blanket and you kind of sat out in the dirt, and you know, you were still getting an amazing experience. But back then it was like, okay, everyone else pulls up their bootstraps, and thank God that they had that hardware store in North Fargo that was like, we'll give you the paint.
Everyone, it's intermission time. We're going to have machines dumping toxic chemicals into the air to kill off the mosquitoes that are eating you alive. So please go get some fried donuts and just stay over there while we poison this area.
Fried donuts is bold. I think the most that they had there was like popcorn for a long time.
Oh, no. They had the fried donuts.
They had the fried
that
donuts?
you can get at Red Hawks now. That was
Really?
always my favorite part of as a kid going to the main stage musical every summer, was because you got to watch them go down the line and float in the oil and then get flipped over, and then they go, oh, damn it, I want some fried donuts right
We'll
now.
have some mini donuts for lunch today.
But so you guys have been in productions as adults, though.
Right.
I mean, do your parents ever, like, if you got a review in something and it wasn't entirely positive, would your parents?
No, my parents are totally cool with me taking it in the teeth for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like, oh, this is a generation, these kids are being coddled or anything like that. I'm not, get off my lawn here. But I am surprised that, like, it seems to bother the parents more than it bothers than it would bother the kids.
Well, it's just like in sports. Like, you get parents.
I should talk to the sports guys about that, because I never really
talk to hockey coaches, kids hockey coaches.
Ooh.
The parents that they deal with are insane, and the only reason I know that was because a teacher of mine in high school was also the hockey coach, and you could tell he wasn't super interested in teaching. He pretty much wanted to do hockey, but then every day in class he would complain about hockey parents and how there were ones where there was a parent who showed up at his house on Sunday evening during dinner time to ask about something for the like just walked up to his house and he's like, it's Sunday and I'm eating dinner with my family.
Yeah.
We can talk about this tomorrow when I'm in school. Talk to hockey parents.
Well, and that I wonder too is if maybe there's a correlation there because of the time and the effort put into that in like hockey, because the investment is huge.
Right.
The monetary investment in gear, and then you've got the time investment, which isn't just practice time and game times, it's travel time.
Right.
Because with hockey's kind of crazy. They're traveling all across North Dakota, Minnesota to play games, to play tournaments. My cousin lives down in Dallas. He flies his kid to tournaments.
Wow.
That's just nuts.
That's insane.
And so maybe along the lines of Trollwood, Trollwood's a kind of a big buy-in to, I'm not sure if I think there's maybe an enrollment. I'm not sure, but you're there for, you're there all day for 2.5 months,
right?
Or you're doing it's a huge part of your life. So maybe that's probably what it is. That's the thing I wonder about concerts too, is that the people who go to concerts, I think people who they buy a ticket to a show, they're seldom going to walk away upset because they're invested.
Yep.
They're invested. They spend $10 for parking or, $5 at the Dome, $10 at Shields Arena, which is outrageous. But, you bought beer, you bought dinner, if you paid for a sitter, something like that. And then, you're paying $150 for 2 tickets or whatever it is. You want to be entertained. And so you're going to let yourself be entertained. If I go to a show and I'm reviewing it, I didn't pay for a ticket. Mm-hmm. I have to be there. I have to write by 10 o'clock. So I'm writing about maybe like the first hour of a show. I remember when Guns N' Roses played at the Fargo Dome, like I had to write like during the opening for Welcome to the Jungle. And I think my opening line was when Axl Rose finally came on stage and asked, "Do you know where you are?" Most of the crowd wanted to ask, "Do you know what time it is?" And, so I think that's like, I'm kind of going into it as a reviewer. You go into it with a different, you're not there to be entertained. You're there to do your job.
Right.
And you're also there. You got to get your job done at a certain time. If the band decides they don't want to come on till later or whatever, you're kind of going in with some different things. But like people like, we weren't at the same concert. I'm like, no, we just didn't go in with the same expectations.
Right. And I think you hit the nail on the head too with, it's not just the cost of the ticket. It's the cost of everything else that surrounds it.
Yep.
It's the date night philosophy of, gosh, this is the one time I'm going out this season, and so I'm going to make the most of it, and come hell or high water, I'm going to have a good time, God damn it. That babysitter is costing me $14 an hour.
Yeah.
And like I'm going to have some fun, and I'm going to pull out my old jean jacket.
Yep.
And like I'm going to put a new Cheap Trick patch on it. And this is going to be a good time.
Oh, this is the best Miller Lite ever. Please, more nacho cheese.
I'm always surprised that they really have not upped the gourmet factor at most arenas these days, because people are expecting a higher level of treat than just Twizzlers.
I go to baseball games. The only sport I really pay attention to is baseball. And so I think I've been to about a third of the baseball parks. Tried to travel around and go to them, and haven't done it the last 2 years.
It's my dream retirement is touring the country and going out to all the ballparks.
So I tried to do some of the gourmet food, especially you're out in New York, and I can't remember the Mets. They have some chef, and he's got a steak sandwich there. It's seldom worth it. I think you're better off going with a really good hot dog. And what you were talking about, the Red Hawks, I would rather eat, and again, maybe it's because you're outdoors, I'd rather eat the Red Hawks than the Fargo Dome or Shields Arena.
I agree.
I think like the
It's
hot
that
dogs
summertime
are better.
outdoor feel to it.
But they have the bacon wrapped hot dogs, which are delicious.
Nice.
You know what I really miss is, do you remember when the Hi-Ho had the burger contract out there, and then they'd let you put all the condiments that you want?
Yes.
Like the condiments bar, like, because I love the pickles that they get, and so I would load it up with
on
pickles.
Yes. Oh, and then you've got pickles for the rest of the night.
Yep.
Sweet, sweet Bill.
I try to buy the hot dogs at a time. I always go brats, actually. I don't do hot dogs. I do the brats usually. But I try to time it so that I know I'll be at the condiment station when other people aren't, because then I feel like I have to hurry, and I don't want to hurry.
You want to take your time?
I want to take my time and just make sure.
Do I like relish?
Well, I know I don't like
remember.
relish. I love onions, but I got to make sure that I don't put too much ketchup or too much mustard. But it's a big vat that you're just pushing down
right
on.
the amount of tension
But I've also been behind someone in line where they're taking their time with it, and I'm thinking, come on, Get out of the way.
Let's go.
You seem like the kind of man who might remember the movie Nothing But Trouble. It was John Candy, Chevy Chase.
What do you mean
Dan
by you
Aykroyd.
seem like the man?
Yeah.
So-
no, I think that sounds kind of familiar, but I can't
Demi
remember.
Moore.
Was it like an old mansion or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah,
A haunted
yeah.
mansion? Yeah, I didn't see it. No.
When people talk about hot dogs, so Dan Aykroyd, I think, helped write this movie, and he's nuts. Like when people
He's
really label it,
insane.
like if you read the original treatment to Ghostbusters, it's like 400 pages long and it's very science heavy. Because he's a genius, but he goes too far, and most of the times it's like, well, let's rein it in, Dan. But he plays this character who's like an old judge who's like kind of face is falling off, but they eat hot dogs for dinner. And whenever I see someone eat a hot dog, I think about it in this because they've got a little train that goes around the table like a lazy Susan, and it's got all the condiments on it. And then he shakes so much as he gets it up to his mouth, and it makes me want to throw up just even thinking about it right now.
But like, didn't this cold weather streak just make you want to have a hot dog?
It
kind
did.
of. You just wanted to like, God, I would love to grill right now.
Made me want Indian food.
Really?
I mean, I always want Indian food, but then when it's cold out, I want it even more.
Indian food is great comfort food.
Especially in the cold, would warm your belly and
Whole great warming, and yes.
So you've lived through a second renaissance for Fargo. Since you started writing for the Forum, Fargo has become much more of a metropolitan area than it used to be.
Yeah.
And we've really embraced the idea of like, we've got more than one Indian restaurant now. Thank goodness.
Now we have Himalayan too.
Oh
Yeah,
my
we have-
gosh, all the choices.
we have 4 Indian places
Yeah.
in this area, in this region.
So what is the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo, Dilworth, Glendon, Felton area missing that we still could use that you would like to see?
Well, I mean, nothing against Wurst, because I think Wurst is really, really great. But it's amazing that it took that long for a German restaurant to come in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this community, North Dakota, that's the predominant ancestry, I think. Is if it's not number one, it's 2. German food seems like a natural, and it's comfort food. Why not? Why not do that?
I think they're like,
So-
well, Kroll's has got some German items,
Yeah,
so we'll just,
Kroll's-
we'll have that take care of it.
But if you don't want to eat everything, in a big bun, so that. So what would be a good one? I would like to see a Cuban restaurant or a Spanish restaurant. I'd actually love to see a
nice.
tapas restaurant. But so that would be good. I actually haven't tried because there's at least 5 or 6 African places, and I haven't been to any of them, and I want to try some of them.
I think people in our neck of the woods go goat meat. Ugh, I like the taste of goat. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy it.
I've had goat a couple of times. To me, it's a lot of work because you're chewing around the bone.
Yep, I like
So-
that. It brings me to a real primal place. Yeah, I really dig that.
You watch some Netflix.
I think, I'm not sure. No one does pies in this town, like an actual homemade pies.
I
That
mean,
would
yeah,
be-
no restaurant does.
No
for sure.
restaurant does. Yeah, I mean, people do. Individuals
do for
And
sure.
those the individuals that you want to invite
Well,
over.
what
a
about the
lot.
Village Inn? Doesn't the Village Inn
Come
known
on,
for their
that's
pies?
Not their homemade pies. I think we want. That's what. Why isn't
someone
government
lives at
cracking
the
down
Village
on
Inn.
what homemade means?
That's why it's officially that.
That's a good question because they're all over organic.
Yeah,
they want to
exactly.
but what's homemade or
USDA,
from
come
scratch?
on. Wow, whose scratch are we talking there?
Right, Cisco scratch
Let's
delivered here
define
yesterday.
Homemade. It's because it's made in your kitchen. Come on, it's homemade.
I'd like a pie place. It took a long time for the tater tot revolution to get to Fargo, and I'm
What?
glad
It's
What do you mean by that?
So tater tots, French fries are passe. They're
Oh,
yesterday.
you're talking about at a restaurant.
Yeah.
I was like, we've been eating tater tot dishes in this area for
Right.
a very
and
long
see,
time.
that's the thing that shocks me is we love tater tot hot dish around here. So why tater tots didn't become the go-to side 15 years ago kind of shocks
I
me.
only order the tots if they're either sweet potato or if they come with the excuse me, what is the salt? The
Sea salt.
no, like mushroom. Isn't it
Truffle?
Celery
Truffle.
salt.
Truffle
Yeah.
oil. If it's
Truffle
been
oil.
made in truffle oil.
Whoa!
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, fancy
going
pants.
up shelf. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm like, why do I pay a restaurant for something that I'd buy at the grocery store for 50 cents?
You guys dipping your sweet potato fry products in marshmallow fluff yet? Because that was a
I have
game
done that
changer for
before.
me.
That was a big thing. Like when Worst first opened, and I tried that, and I was like, meh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I want
only
some more
man
like a
for you, huh?
chipotle sauce.
Yeah,
to dip
I want
in.
a little bit more of the spice. That like their chili, their little chili sauce there.
Yeah.
That's what I go for.
Worst does have the best pretzel sticks.
Yeah,
I think
the pretzels they're it's like it's carbo crack basically.
Right.
You just can't stop at one.
Didn't they when they sold Bertrosas? Didn't they sell the recipe for the beer cheese soup as well? So they had to come up with a new recipe. That was the word on the street that I heard. That when they
Maybe.
sold Bertrosas, the thing with Bertrosas was the beer cheese.
And I kind of miss Bertrosas, and I like it when they do specials, like when they have a Bertrosa sandwich on the worst as a
I
special.
didn't know they did that.
They did it. They do it from time to time. Like on Facebook, I've seen them do it.
Okay.
And I like to see that. That's good. Another thing I think we're starting to see fried chicken in town, and I think we're gonna start seeing more of it. That's what I'd like to see more of. I'd like to see more good hot chicken and fried chicken, and not just KFC.
It's pretty much insourcing the things from other cultures. So I remember a time in Fargo where it was like, well, would you like to enjoy your white plate full of pretty much white food?
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about all the food was just white. So
Would
everything
you like
was
rice with that?
rice, white gravies,
Yeah.
everything. And I went to the first time I had chicken and waffles was at a place in Brooklyn called Sweet Chick that made me rethink the way that I've been eating chicken my entire life. Like, it can be savory and sweet.
They know
It
how to make
should
chicken
be.
in the South for sure.
Yeah.
They
For
do.
Sure.
And so I would love to see more stuff, and not just the big chain ones.
Yep.
I'd like to see some more people. I'm heartbroken that Darren's Soul Food Cafe couldn't eke it out because it was great. In the Twin Cities, there's a place called Brasa. I think they've got 3 locations.
Brasa's wonderful.
So good, right?
So good.
And it's the type of, like, they use garage doors for everything. It's the type of look where this could be popular in Fargo. I know that it could.
Brass is a great example of something that would be, because it's a little bit different enough. There's some Cuban influence there. There's some Central American, some South American, some Southern, but it's all really kind of basic comfort food. They've got those wonderful Jarritos sodas or whatever they're called. I can't remember, but that Brasa is a great space.
I want chains that we don't get up here to come up here. Like I really want Gold Star Chili to
And I
come
think
up
if you
to
opened it
Fargo.
up by NDSU, I think you
would
could make a
kill.
killing.
It would absolutely kill, but you have to be in Cincinnati or you have to be in Ohio or Kentucky in that area
You
to
like
get it.
what do they call Skyline chili out there? Or
I
whatever
like Skyline, but I'm a Gold Star guy. So
Okay.
Gold Star is
It's Cincinnati style chili.
Cincinnati,
so
right.
served over.
same concept. Basically, to the untrained palate, tastes the same. Does not taste the same. They use different sodium mixes, I think, at Gold Star.
Oh my!
But that is because my dad's side of the family is from Kentucky.
Okay.
So we would always go there probably about once a year on average to visit. And I always demanded we have to go to Gold Star. We absolutely have to go to Gold Star. And then you can buy cans of it. And so we would always buy cans or mix packets and bring it up. And then I got like JJ and a few other friends into Gold Star chili at the same time.
Yeah, I'm full. Like when Tucker's dad goes down to Kentucky, I'm like, bring me back a pallet of that stuff. Would
And-
you mind?
and it's not like
$20.
It's not like it's a high quality food. I mean, it's just basically like a ground beef puree in salt in a can.
Nothing. And what amazes me about Gold Star chili, the setup. So when you walk into a Gold Star chili or a Skyline, it's a production line. None of the stuff is made for you right then and there. It's just all sitting in warmers waiting for you, and you can order your chili. Is it 2-way, 3-way, 4-way?
Yep.
And 2-way is where you have the chili sauce, which is really thin over spaghetti, and then you add either onions or cheese.
Yeah.
What-
Well, my remembrance, especially with Gold Star, 2-way is with cheese. 3-way is with cheese and then either onions or beans. 4-way is with the whole shebang. I always do 3-way with onions. That's my
No
thing.
beans.
No beans.
No beans.
No beans.
He's a gentleman.
I got farts enough coming out already.
That's already a long car trip back. You don't need to up the ante.
absolutely.
What ballparks have you been to? I mean, you said a third of any the notable ones that you really like.
Actually, the one that I really, really like, I go with my brother, and he's been to a couple more than I have. He's been out to Seattle. I haven't been out there. I haven't done anything on the West Coast except for Colorado, which was great.
Yeah.
Colorado, seeing the Rockies there was fantastic. But I really did like the Cincinnati Ballpark.
Yeah.
Great American Ballpark, I think is what it is. I thought that was a really fun one. Cleveland was one of the ones, one of the first ones when it was the Jake, and now it's Progressive Field, and I think maybe it's something different now. That was one of the first, that and Camden Yards were the first ones when they kind of changed ballparks to become much, much smaller. And we had, you could see where that was the beginning of it. and they'd made some things now, like you couldn't see the game. There wasn't a clean and open concourse all the way around. There were parts where you couldn't see the game. So I was a little bit disappointed in the Jake, but they had a great outfield memorials and all the names and everything like that that you can off to the side of the outfield. Yankee Stadium, I thought for the amount of money it is.
So you went to the new one.
Yep, went to New Yankee Stadium, and then we didn't get to go to Memorial Park there. Went to the Mets. The Red Sox, we saw the year that they really were in the tanker. It was the year that they had what was his name, Davey. He was their coach, their manager, and he was hated. And it was the last game of the season, so they just kind of like, okay, we got to keep people happy. We got to sell this game. They brought out like all the great living Red Sox that could make it there, and they lined them up in the infield. And I thought, cool. And at the end of the game, they let everybody who was there run the bases on Fenway. And that was great. And we started taking tours of stadiums too, which is really, really fun. So getting to walk around Fenway was pretty great. Camden Yards is beautiful.
Camden Yards is one of those ballparks too where I am surprised at the neighborhood that surrounds it. Like
once you get away from a block, it's I remember walking at night and like literally stepping over people who were sleeping on the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a developing area.
It really is.
But then I've been to Arlington, see the Rangers play, and there you're out in Jerry World. You're kind of in the middle of nowhere. But then the same token, seeing with the Astros, we went to see an Astros game when the Rockets were still in the playoffs. So there's hardly anybody there, and there's the year before they won the World Series. I had a friend who knew somebody, so we got down on the field for batting practice to be able to be down there. And I remember seeing like Jose Altuve. He's so short, he's so tiny, and he's an MVP. So
he's got no strike zone.
No, but he can. He works the walk. He steals the base. He runs. Yeah. So Kansas City was also really fun too. The ones I would go back to, I'd like to go back to Kansas City. This is heresy. Wrigley was interesting, but it's like such a. I know the charm of it is that it's such an old ballpark, but it's also really, really crowded, and there's a lot of people there who are really, really drunk. So unless you really like the smell of stale old style, it's worth going to. Next time I do it, I would do it differently. I would splurge for better tickets.
I'm more of a stale Natty Light guy myself.
There.
Yeah. I've got a theory about Wrigley, which is Wrigley is your high school girlfriend, where you at the time you're happy, but there's a reason you broke up with your high school girlfriend, right? And you stopped going to games. But then like 15 years later, you think back fondly on those times and you remember it differently. Like she was maybe a little bit more attractive and she was a little less crazy.
She didn't throw beer at me.
Right. And so then like you make a point to find her at your reunion and you're like, whoa, that's right. Never mind.
Yeah.
When I lived in Chicago, they've got an ongoing play called Bleacher Bums.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen it?
No, but I've heard. Yeah.
I think as a baseball fan, you love it. So the idea of Bleacher Bums is it's the bleachers in Wrigley, and it's like these 6 guys who are all watching a ball game, and it's a play that takes place during the ball game, and every now and then they update it. And it's really funny because they will do the play. There's some nights they'll start the play after a game at Wrigley ends, and they'll hold the start of the play so that they get the drunks who are wandering around to get in there to watch this show. And you'll have people who are crying during it because they're thinking about this magical experience that they just had at a ballpark. I love it. It's so good.
Actually, I really enjoyed the White Sox Stadium, which is U.S. Cellular. I can't remember what it's called. Because there you're not necessarily the edge of town, but you're on the edge of the train line.
Yep.
You're going there for a reason. You don't just stumble across it like a lot of the.
It's a destination.
It's a destination, but like that was the place where as opposed to going to Wrigley when I was at the White Sox Stadium, it was like, oh, these are all families here.
Mm-hmm.
These are all families here, and not all the families were like white.
Yeah.
It was a very diverse crowd, which I really kind of liked. And it was a fine open stadium. It was a lot of room and great statue to Harold Baines, so I dug it.
I've heard from people that Dodger Stadium is a fun one to walk into, where you just kind of feel some history when you walk in. You watch the older guys kiss their hand and then kiss the side of the wall as they're going in, and that's part of their tradition.
Yeah, I would love to go out there and see that. See the new San Francisco ballpark, the Giants, where the Giants play, and so there's a lot of places yet to do. A lot of places. I'd like to go do. You were talking about that would be your retirement. My retirement would be going to minor league games.
Oh,
and living off nothing but hot dogs for a summer, spending $5.
So you're planning on your retirement lasting a summer?
Yes, exactly.
Sounds like
John Lamb's obituary, like he died doing what he loved, eating hot dogs at minor league stadiums.
Discount beer and hot dogs.
The Walter Matthau's grandson will be playing him in the biopic version of it. So you've built a career in media to the point in Fargo where, people look forward to opening the paper and reading your column, and that's
you're an
gotta feel pretty
institution
cool.
in and of yourself.
It's gotta feel pretty cool.
Well, I don't know if people look forward to look forward to that. That's maybe my mom does, but I don't know about the average reader. But,
You're very humble, because you're one of the only reasons I keep my subscription sometimes.
Well, I appreciate that, and then you should repeat that. You should call certain people at my paper and tell them that.
Last time I upped it, they asked me like, "And what's your favorite column?" I'm like, John Lamb,
and Bob
then,
Lind.
and then like the oft forgotten one where you're going to have teenagers write a section of the paper every Saturday. I said, I missed that. I wish you'd bring that back.
the teen notebook, something like
Yep.
that. Yeah. Ooh-wee. No, it is nice. I like my job. I mean, I've got a really good job in that I get to write about, for the most part, the fun things and the cool things that are happening, and to document kind of like how the city is changing, and kind of like what's happening, what's going on. And it's nice in the newsroom now. There are, I think, 3 or 4 reporters who've been there longer than I have. So people will come to me and is like, do you remember this? Do you remember what happened with this? And so sometimes I'll have to I kind of vaguely remember that. And sometimes I'll actually remember it. So it's nice. I feel it's nice to feel like you participate in something like that.
What's in your office?
Well, I don't have an office.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's in your cubicle?
We don't even have a cubicle. We have
What's in your bullpen?
A quad.
Oh.
It is. I've joked that I should Marie Kondo my desk. that would what gives me joy? Does this old press release, this old Blues Fest press release from 2015, still with the whiteout over certain band names, does that give me joy? No, but it's funny. So yeah, it does give me joy. We had this thing for a while where you at Christmas, you would they would offer you to clean off your desk, and there'll be prizes hidden throughout the newsroom on people's desks. And I found one a year after it was placed. So yeah, but which was nothing. There was another reporter who opened his drawer one day. Was like, I had a donut in here. Yeah, you did. You did.
I still have a donut in here.
Yeah, you have the remains of a donut now. You have a very
What happens to
donut.
if you leave a donut out for long enough? Does it kind of deflate itself a little bit?
I would hope it would evaporate, but that's what I wanted to do, like a
and
Jedi.
I don't even know if they would ever
Once it gets too old,
if it'll get so crusty, it would just
I think it would mold. It would eventually just be, because it's still biological, it's still biomaterial, right? So there's going to be things that want to start eating it after a while, I would assume.
Yeah.
Unless sugar does something to that. But
I wonder if there's so many preservatives in it too.
Maybe.
It just stays.
I mean, I don't know.
a cake donut would go moldy.
Is there egg in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a cake donut?
Yeah.
Because other than that, I can't think of flour doesn't mold.
Yeah, but bread does. So you make
Bread
a
is
loaf.
yeast.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, no, but donuts should have some yeast.
I would bet money that donuts mold when you leave them out for too long.
Gentlemen, I think we've set our listeners onto a task of Googling
This is a
whether or
scientific
not.
experiment.
Put a donut outside, and let it sit for
Whoa, outside.
outside of where you usually keep it. So it could be not in your donut box, but because we all have donut boxes, right, where we keep our donuts. Yeah.
Because you don't want the crows coming and
Well,
taking
you
the
could,
Right,
you
that's
could
what I was
do
thinking.
the mason jar thing, right? Where you seal it up into a mason jar, and then it'll still mold,
Hermetically.
but you see how long it takes for it to
See,
break
if
down.
you leave food out in the newsroom, you don't have to worry about crows. You have to worry about photographers coming in and stealing it.
Mm-hmm.
They will come. They will find the food.
Those dirty
Actually,
photographers.
all reporters will be. They will whether it's the Red Sox game or wherever there are reporters and there are food, they will find it.
You would think that people in the media just are never fed because, they're like, and then we've got some pizza over here and like interviews done. Boom, go over there. I watch people from our newsroom at work who just will bolt and take off, and they just need to get somewhere to get a donut.
It's because
or
we're all
something.
poor. That's why we need to save that money. So we're gonna get the free food whenever we get a chance.
I think it's more that there used to be like a golden era where food was just abundant and everywhere, and you also sort of wish you were working for Microsoft. And
you're chasing a sugar high too at that moment.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to get your fix.
Yeah,
they're giving you drugs at work. Is what they're doing. They're drugging you. They're giving you drugs.
A little bit of what you need.
Yeah, stay here. Here.
Little sniff to keep you going.
John, as we wrap this thing up, where can people find you?
You mean like physically?
Well, this is like a plug for your column. But if you want to, if you want to let people know, like, is there a tracker app that you're using?
No. I'm in the Forum most Tuesdays, Thursdays, every Thursday, Tuesdays, sometimes Sunday. Just always read the Forum is what I'll tell you.
There you go.
Always look online. www.inforum.com.
Do you have a Twitter account that people look at from time to time?
They would look at it more than I do. So that's not a good way to. I'm on the Facebook. But I'm horrible with Twitter. Do you guys do much with it?
I actually deleted Twitter off of my phone because of the social media platforms. That's the one that puts the most poison into my eyes when I'm looking at it. And I realized that I was getting nothing out of it. And if anything, I would like to have, like, I tried to go through and curate my Twitter feed so that I was actually only getting updates from people I knew in town. But almost everyone in town here is using Facebook for most of their posting, if they're actually posting something. And then Twitter has now made it, because it's been impossible for Twitter to make money, that you're getting ads like every fourth tweet. And it's just garbage now. So I don't use Twitter anymore.
It took me forever to understand Facebook, and then when they're like, "We need you to understand this," I was like, "Nope."
We post to Twitter for the podcast, but we don't then go and check to see if someone's slamming us.
Yeah, so which is really nice.
I'm also on MySpace.
Are you?
I have a Zanga blog.
Yes, exactly.
John, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
A huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring this podcast. Folks, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, contact Natalie Deutsch today, because Natalie Deutsch is not only a previous podcast guest, she's somebody who's going to care enough to sell your property for top dollar. She's also going to find you the best price possible if you're purchasing a new home. Last year, on average, Natalie earned her clients $4,000 over list price on their homes and sold them faster than the market average. On average, Natalie's selling a home every 3.74 days. That's 2 homes a week. Those numbers don't lie. Find out why Natalie is one of the top agents in this entire market. Get a hold of her today, Natalie at hatchrealtyfm.com. You can also call 701-388-9338 or go on to livefargomorehead.com. That's livefargomorehead.com. Read all of her amazing reviews, and then listen to her episode of JJ Meets World. Thanks again to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode of JJ Meets World and would like to help us continue to produce 2 new episodes every week, you can donate to our Patreon. Check out patreon.com/JJ Meets World and donate today. Even as little as $1 a month can go a long way. Visit our website at www.jjmeetsworld.com or hit up our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the sites the kids are using these days. If you'd like to stay up to date on new episodes of JJ Meets World, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you consume the podcast that you love. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by checking out www.moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, go to linebenders.com, and you can find direct contact info for JJ. When we were first interviewing John Lamb, I thought he was this sheep that had been cloned at one point, and I was kind of disappointed to not see that it was a talking sheep, but it was actually columnist John Lamb. So if you tell me that Greg Giraffe, the guest we have coming up next week, is not a real giraffe, I'm going to be pissed.